It is week 5 in Iowa high school for football season. In class 5A, 4A, and 3A, we've got district and group play starting. All the other classes have been going at that for a little bit now. But nevertheless, we got a ton of games to talk about. We're switching up the show a little bit and how it's run today. Before we get into that, Nick, give me one player that you're looking at this week and you're excited to watch.
I'm going to say Will Nuss for this week just because I will be going out to that game at Johnson Hawkeyes. It'll be a really exciting 5A matchup. I'm going to be really excited to watch him. It's the first time I'll be able to watch him in person. And it's a relatively big game for kind of a quiet week as far as matchups go throughout the state, throughout the classes. So I'll definitely be looking for him. He's going to be throwing it out to Jacob Simpson. That'll be a fun duo to watch and film. I'll be excited to see how that turns out. So that's who I've got. Who are you going to be watching this week?
Yeah, I think a game that's kind of falling under the radar just because of how far away it is from where we are in Des Moines is Glenwood and Lewis Central. And I'm excited to see Caden Anderson, the quarterback of Glenwood, really a big chance for them to kind of step up and take a lead in their district. That's a huge district game. I know our ranker picked Lewis Central in that district, but if Glenwood can come out and win that game on the road right away, that puts them right in the driver's seat in that district. And Caden Anderson, he's one of the better quarterbacks in Class 4A, and his numbers prove that. So I'm excited to see what he puts up in that game. But without further ado, again, like I said, we are switching up how we do this a little bit. We've seen these teams for 4 weeks playing in non-district games. We feel like we know a little bit about them. We're not going off of last year's stuff. You know, we got a good sample size, so we're switching it up each class. Nick and I both went through. We picked one team that we don't see getting upset, and then we picked one matchup where we could see an upset. So kind of one lock and one upset in each class. Nick, I'm going to let you start with your picks in Class 5A.
So my first pick for Class 5A, my lock is Southeast Polk. I was able to go and watch them last week. That was a fun game to watch. Came right down to the wire with Centennial. They're going to be heading all the way out to Sioux City East. This is an impressive stat. This is their first unranked opponent this season. So, they've been really able to perform so far, 4-0, obviously, against those big ranked opponents. And they're going to be coming off a game where they got 3 interceptions against a well-versed quarterback in Trenton Smith. And Sioux City East, initially looking at their stats, they're a very pass-heavy team. So Southeast Polk's going to be looking for a big turnover game here, and they're looking to just keep this offense going. They've got one of the best quarterbacks in the state at the helm with Connor Moberly. And CJ Phillip had a kind of his breakout game last week. He fell just short of 100 yards, but scoring 2 touchdowns in that one. That was a huge game for him. So I'm going to be looking for SEP to come away with this one pretty handily.
What about your upset? Go ahead. Just go ahead.
I'll go with my underdog here. It's going to be Iowa City Liberty. They've been having their struggles adjusting in Class 5A so far. Graham Beckham, he's one of the stars of the state as well. He's going to look to lead Liberty against a slumping Cedar Rapids Prairie team. They've wanting to bounce back after losing 2 very good teams in Pleasant Valley and Cedar Falls. Graham Beckham is going to be, he's going to be the deciding factor in that game. Prairie, they're looking to keep their start to the season was great, and no love lost there for them losing to a couple great 5A squads. But you know what? Watch out for Graham Beckham because he can come up behind you and he can really take control of that game. And I'm going to be looking for Liberty to take control of that one. So who are you looking at for your lock and underdog for Class 5A?
First off, I like how you learned your lesson from last week. You go against Southeast Polk this week. You go with them as your lock, so you're kind of trying to gain their trust back. But tell you what, you almost called it last week. That would have been an all-timer right there. But nevertheless, I like your picks. Yeah, Graham Beckman, Liberty. They're definitely no easy slouch in any Class 5A game, and he's one of the only quarterbacks in the state of Iowa to throw for 1,000 yards to this point. So yeah, he is always going to be a tough out. Switching to my kind of favorite though, I got Centennial, the team that just lost to Southeast Polk. They look really good. I think they are proving themselves as one of the contenders in Class 5A, even with the loss. They got one loss to Ankeny week 1, tough game there, but I think they are proving themselves as a contender in this class, and I think they get back in the win column against Des Moines East. My upset, Iowa City West hosting Ankeny. a little bit of a shocker. Ankeny has to go out east, longer bus trip. And Iowa City West is no slouch. Just lost to City High. These are two teams that really know nothing about each other. I looked on Bound. There's no historical matchups on Bound. And that goes back a pretty decent way. So I'm going to take Iowa City West and Jack Wallace. I think they are going to be hungry after a loss to City High and Ankeny, obviously just coming off a win against Johnston, a homecoming win. So could be some, mixed emotions and having to switch up the mojo after that and heading into group play. So my pick there is Iowa City West. Nick, we got a few more notable games I do want to talk about before we transition over to Class 4. Some big games that were not on our list. Kennedy and City High. Who do you got there, and what do you like?
I really like Kennedy so far. They've been kind of a red hot team, and a team that I liked before the season, and they just they kind of didn't get to the start to the season that they wanted. But I mean they've been looking a lot better recently. I mean obviously the newly committed player that they've got out there, he's going to be looking on the offensive line, and I'm going to be looking for Kennedy to win this one. City High is looking. They're still a good team even without their star Ben Keeter, who just went out to the University of Iowa. So I'm going to be looking at Kennedy for that one.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. These are two teams, both on 2-game win streaks. They both lost their first 2 games, and then they both obviously picked up their next 2. And really, I thought this would be a matchup that has happened more, but really, they've only played once since 2013, and that was in 2021, where City High won 32-0. So again, 2 teams that really don't know much about each other, but I like the pick. I think Kennedy is the pick here. They've got a great passing game with Gianforte and Cyrus Courtney. But City High is going to go out and compete, and going to Bates Field and winning is never an easy task. That was a really cool environment my first time there last week. So I like the pick there, and I'm also going to agree with you. Switching over to Hawkeyes and Johnson, I'm not going to have you pick this game just in case, since you're going to be there. You don't want to get booed again, but I like Hawkeyes. I think they're the team with the mojo right now. I think they could be ranked a little bit in Class 5A. They are 3-1. They're playing well. Johnson kind of the opposite, kind of starting to stumble a little bit, looking to gain their feet underneath them. And I like Hawkeyes. I like Baker. I like the squad there. I was at their practice earlier in the year, and I like the energy they bring. So I'm going to go Hawkeyes. That's it for Class 5A. Nick, let's go to Class 4A. What are you looking at there?
My first lock for Class 4A has to be ADM. They're coming off a really great win over a very good Norwalk team. Boone has been also a pretty solid team up to this point. Yeah. 3-1 so far. They're obviously getting ready to start in that district play. And, other than North Polk, I mean, it is looking like Boone is going to be one of ADM's top competition for that district. So this would be a huge win for ADM to pick up. Although Boone hasn't played the greatest competition so far, 3-1, the record doesn't lie. They're still winning football games. This is going to be another spot for Aiden Flora to show his greatness. Obviously, we've talked about before. We hate talking about it. Brevin Dalton goes out with an injury, and Aiden Flora has been able to take control. He's been able to keep doing his thing and keep having success. And, I'm really rooting for this ADM team. It sucks losing a player, especially one of your star players, so I really hope the best for that team. And looking at the underdog in Class 4A, I've got Spencer. They have not caught a break this season. They're 0-4 right now, but their first 4 games have been against Humboldt, Webster City, Spirit Lake, and Sioux Center. 3 of those teams I know is Humboldt, Webster City, Sioux Center, are all teams that are in the playoff hunt. So Spencer, I'm looking for them to kind of get a bit of an upset win here. I think that they could, maybe I was looking at them before the season. They looked like they had a few returning guys that just haven't really, got their momentum going yet. And I think that if they can find their footing, they can get themselves a little bit of an upset win here. I think that'd be cool to see, especially considering they were hoping themselves to have a bit of a better season. But, 0-4 is no way to start out. So who are you looking at for Class 4A?
Yeah, I tell you what, Nick. Starting 0-4 in 4A, it's not the end of the world because you still got your district play. That's the great thing if you look at it in Iowa, you start 0-4 and then you go 5-0 or 4-1 in your district and you get top 2, bang, you're in the playoffs at 500. So that is the really good thing if you're in Spencer's position. And like I said in the Class 4A district preview, that is probably one of the better 0-4 teams in the state of Iowa. Not really a title you want, but you know what? You're 0-4. Your season kind of resets at this point, starting district play. So I do like that Spencer pick. They're a really good team, and not what their record shows. Moving on to mine, though, I love North Polk. They got Des Moines North. North Polk, though, they're 1-point loss against Webster City. If they win that game, they're easily number 2, number 1. They're right up there in Class 4A. Game they kind of lost hold of at Webster City, but nevertheless, Isaac Zosky, their leading passer, B.J. Tate, their leading rusher, Braden Foster's a stud on that defense. They got a lot of big names. They got a nice win over Bonneret Farrar. Just that's a team that's going to kind of, I think, cruise until their Week 9 game against ADM, which is going to be a ton of fun. Moving on to my upset, though, I got Winterset beating Norwalk. I think Norwalk kind of got their eyes open last week. We thought that was going to be a good game at ADM. They lost 47-14. Winterset has also played ADM. That was a 49-27 game. So you got a common opponent. They got 2 common opponents, actually. They both beat Carlisle. I think Winterset's a little better than their record shows. Hunter Lyon at quarterback, Hank Wilmus running the ball. He's got 500 yards rushing. They're going to play good defense. That's just what Winterset does. They've held their opponents under 20 points in 3 of their first 4 games, or in 2 of their first 4 games, and the 2 that have scored over 20 have been ADM and Creston. So really good quality of opponents so far for them. So I really like Winterset. One more game we want to talk about. Glenwood, Lewis Central, like I said, kind of a sleeper game. If not Harlan Creston, the best game in the state of Iowa this week, I think it's probably Glenwood, Lewis Central. Nick, what are you looking for in that game, and who do you like?
I like Lewis Central in this one. Glenwood they've been a respectable team. I mean, I thought that they were a contender early this season, and they've proven that so far this year. And I think Lewis Central's just kind of having a down year. I feel like they're not the same Lewis Central team that we're used to seeing in recent history. And I think they're just going to be looking to get one of those big wins as we're getting into this halfway point of the season. You're really trying to solidify yourself. You're really trying to play good, consistent football. And I think that's what they're going to be. I think that's what they're going to do this week. I think they're going to finally find themselves in a consistent spot, finally getting their offense and their defense clicking on every level. And I think that they're going to be looking to make themselves the top team in 4A once again.
Yeah, for sure. And I think people see this Lewis Central record and they think, Lewis Central isn't back. But they play Bondurant, ADM, Creston, and Harlan. Those are all top 5 teams in their respective class. A few 3A teams, obviously. But for the first 4 games in your season, you're playing top 5 opponents. That's no easy task. And for what it's worth, I think a 2-2 record is not the end of the world for them.
Right.
They've tested themselves before their district play. I'm going to go Glenwood here, but Lewis Central has won the last 6 matchups here since 2018. They have won 6 in a row against Glenwood. But like I said, I like the senior quarterback from Glenwood, Caden Anderson. He's 50 for 74 through the air for 680. He's a stud, and obviously Peyton Longmire's favorite target with 300+ yards. But that's going to be a good one. I like Lewis Central. I saw them win in ADM, so wouldn't be surprised. It's a good team. They're well coached. Both these teams are. But it's just going to be a slugfest in 4A. But that's it for 4A. Nick, moving on to 3A, where you are the expert. Go ahead.
My 3A lock this week's got to be Williamsburg, obviously the number 1 team. They're coming off a big win over a ranked Fort Madison team who was undefeated prior to the game. Beat them 48-14, scoring 34 points in the second quarter. I'm just figuring that out now. The story from last week, they were able to spread the love there. Kellen Cockrell, their star quarterback, he went 8 for 12, 196 yards, 4 touchdowns. And Braylon Wedgen, he went 3 receptions, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's a pretty good line.
They can score.
They can score the ball really well. Obviously, their defense has been stellar too. And I think that's my lock this week, as they're obviously keeping themselves as one of the best teams in the state. And they're playing a South Tama team that's not exactly the greatest. They're down pretty low in the class. So I can definitely see Williamsburg pulling away with this one. I think they're going to score a lot of points. I think they're going to not give up very many. So definitely Williamsburg there. My underdog for this one is Humboldt. They're off to a worse start than I initially thought this season. I thought they were going to be a bit better. And I think that I can still see them breaking into the playoff bracket.
Okay.
I still think that this can be a playoff team despite losing their star running back from last year. I do want to make a note that they are in one of the toughest districts in Class 3A. Let me see which one. Oh, here we go. So the current district rankings for them is Hampton-Dumont-Cal, who's undefeated, Clear Lake undefeated, Webster City top team that's 3-1, and then Humboldt.
Yeah.
So definitely not an easy district that they fell into, but I still think that they can maybe find themselves in a lower seed in the playoffs.
Or the wild card. Yeah,
Or
you get the 4 wild cards. You
exactly.
can see 2 or 3 wild cards coming from that district
absolutely.
alone.
So I can see them getting a little bit of an upset this week. Those are my picks for 3A. Who are you looking at this week?
Going against Hampton-Dumont-Cal is tough. My Bulldogs.
Yes,
oh my
I know.
gosh! But I tell you what, I could see it. They're coming off a big win against Nevada. They're riding high. So you never know how quickly you can refocus after big emotional wins like they just had. So I like the pick at the end of the day. But my lock is Nevada. I think they're going to bounce back. They've got Perry this week. They won the last 4 in the series. I think Nevada was woken up. I listened to the Down podcast. They said it. Teams kind of slip a little bit, and then they wake up the next week and they start to turn it on. I think Nevada suffering an early season loss is only going to do them good in the long run. You're woken up and you're ready to play ball going into district play. So I'll take Nevada. And my upset, I don't know how much of an upset you could call this, but I'm going Clear Lake over Webster City. In our rankings, it's an upset, but really, I think this is a really evenly matched game, especially with Webster City kind of getting trounced last week against West Delaware. Clear Lake, 4-0. They're just kind of hiding in our rankings, and I think this week they prove themselves as a team in 3 that needs to be ranked higher, and a big reason is their junior running back, Titan Schmidt. His numbers don't quite compare to Jackson Cherry, but 600 yards on the ground and 9 touchdowns. They can also throw the ball. So I just like how Clear Lake brings a little bit more of a duality on offense compared to Webster City, who you know exactly what they're going to do. So, and these teams haven't faced off since 2017, so I kind of like that, how both teams don't really know each other. I'll go with Clear Lake and the Lions. But neither of us talked about this game, but we need to. It is the biggest game in the state of Iowa. It is Harlan and Creston. Nick, what do you see from this one, and who do you like?
I think this is going to be a very close match. Harlan, they kind of suffered earlier in the season that loss to Lewis Central. Whatever. Lewis Central is obviously a great team, but they've been really able to bounce back very well. They got a 48-20 win in week 2, 17-14 win against Glenwood, and they put a beating on Sargent Bluff Luton last week. So I think that they're able to score a lot of points so far. The Glenwood game, I would have liked to see them win by a little bit of a bigger margin. But, this is going to be a true test. This is 2 title contenders for Class 3A, 2 powerhouses. And I think that my pick for this game, I think I'm going to go Harlan. I really love the Creston team, but Harlan, they have such a great history. They have, I believe, the most state championships in Iowa high school football history. They are just an awesome program, and I think they're going to be looking for that big win to finally, get some people off their back and say, we're still the top, we're still the top dogs through Class 3A, and that's definitely would be a win that could possibly get them maybe even number 1 over Williamsburg.
Yeah, I feel like this is a game where Harlan has almost become the underdog just because of how the numbers Creston is putting up, and they got the home game. They beat Lewis Central. Harlan lost to Lewis Central. I feel like a lot of people are going Creston here, and I can see it. Cale Turner, Brennan Hayes are 2 of the best skill players in the state of Iowa in Class 3A. But Harlan as an underdog is scary, and they're just flying under the radar right now, and they're going to show up on Friday night, and they're going to play the way they play. So I'm not going to pick this game because I'm going to be there, but I can tell you one thing. I think these teams are going to score at will. I think I'd be surprised if neither team if both teams don't hit 30 points. I think this is going to be like
Absolutely.
a 35-38. It's going to be high scoring the way these numbers are put up. Will Arkfeld and Kill Turner are two of the best passers in the class, and their numbers compare with just about anybody else. So not going to pick this one. I will say Harlan has won the last 6 going back to 2017, and neither of them have been within 20 points. So yeah, 6 straight wins for Harlan, none of them really close. So Creston does not have the historical advantage, but they're on the come up. This is one of their better teams in the last decade, I'd say. They've had some good ones, but Creston is to be fair, and that one's going to be a fun one. Moving on to 2A though, Nick, some good ones here. Go ahead, I'll let you.
So I've got for my lock over here at Class 2A, I've got Monticello over Northeast. Northeast is not really having a great season. They're 1-3 so far with 1 win over Bellevue. And Monticello, after their Week 1 loss to one of 3A's tops, Mount Vernon, they've gone on a nice 3-0 win streak here. Preston Rice, he's been the star that we expected him to be, over 1,000 total yards, 14 total touchdowns. He has been just awesome to watch. Peyton Schilling is his favorite target. He's got 466 yards in the year and 7 receiving touchdowns. I think this is definitely a game that they should win. They're 8-0 historically. They played last season in a 58-28 win. And I'm definitely going to be looking for Monticello to have a dominant win here. They definitely, putting up points really helps your RPI, as those RPI are expecting to get those in the coming weeks. So this is definitely a game that you want to take advantage of when you're not playing a top team in the class. You're playing one of these lower teams that aren't really succeeding. The key is putting up points and winning by a margin. And my underdog for this week, I've got the Kemper Catholic Knights. They've honestly, they've had a decent season. They lost the first 2 games of the year to Bishop Heelan, who's been an emerging Class 3A team, Underwood, and then they've got 2 wins in the last 2 weeks to AHSTW and Roland Story. And I'm going to be looking for them to pick up a win against Greene County. Greene County has been a very solid team in Class 2A. They're obviously ranked in the top 10. And I think this could be a possible win for Kemper if their stars are able to shine, obviously. Looking at their stats a little bit here. Quarterback Brock Batting, he's got 622 yards, 7 touchdowns. A few interceptions on the year, though. That's, when you get up to 3 interceptions for a few weeks, that gets a little bit concerning. But, this would be a really great win for them. They could climb up the ranks a little bit. So, yeah, who are you looking at for Class 2A?
I'll tell you what, I like that. I like the Kemper pick, though. Greene County, they are top 5 in Class 2A, but their last 3 wins, they've won significantly, which you'd hope. But Perry, Atlantic, Sadell, not the highest quality of opponents, so I like the pick. They've lost to Carroll and Kemper. I think DJ Benami is suffering some sort of injury because he's not playing quarterback. It's Brock Bating, the sophomore, obviously being from Carroll. I know Brock Bating is a stud athlete in every sport he plays, so he's done a good job in stepping in, and they've won 2 straight against some good teams, AHSTW, Roland Story, 2 losses to top 10 teams. So Kemper is still a very quality team, and they're just kind of finding their footing back again. But I'm going to go with my favorite, Van Meter, and that one's a pretty simple one, honestly. Bomb over and Ben Gordon. They're going to put up points, and that's all they've done. They've scored 50 points in their last 3 games, so they're going to put up points. They got Clark this week, who's 2-2. So look for Van Meter to keep the train rolling there. And my upset, again, another one that I don't know if you consider an upset in 2A, but Western Christian over West Lyon is what I got. Western Christian, kind of a 2A team that's come out of nowhere in our rankings. 2 4-0 teams here, and this is going to be a low-scoring game. Both these defenses do not give up a ton of points. I mean, West Lyon hasn't given up over 12 points, and Western Christian has only given up 20-plus points 1 time this year. So I like Western Christian here. I think they're going to make a statement and move up even more in the Class 2A rankings after beating Cherokee Washington last week. That's our 2A picks. Moving on to 1A. Nick, what do you got? I like your picks here.
Yeah, my first pick here for Class 1A, my lock for this week is Dyke New Hartford. They take on a 1-3 Central Springs team. Their only win this season coming in Week 1 against Newman Catholic. And Dyke New Hartford has been proving themselves. They've been rising up the ranks. They started the season off with 1-1 so far. They lost to Grundy Center in just a 7-6 match. That was a really close game, and they lost 9-7. They won 9-7 against West Branch. So this defense has been really proving themselves, taking some elite teams and keep them to a very low scoring matchups. I'm going to be looking for Colin Meester to be putting up some good numbers at quarterback. Carson Costello, he's got 157 yards and a touchdown under his belt. And I think this is definitely a team that they can pick up a win against Central Springs. They haven't had the greatest season so far. They have actually got a pretty good quarterback in Carter Crum. He's got 597 passing yards and 5 total touchdowns, but I don't see them overpowering Dyke New Hartford, who's definitely getting some traction there. And my upset pick this week is going to be AHSTW over Trainer. Trainer's been, they're undefeated so far, but they haven't played the strongest schedule so far, which has been one of my concerns for them. But AHSTW, they've been in our top 10, before. I'm not sure if they were in it this week, but I know they have been in the recent weeks. Camden Sukup, he's got 544 yards, over 1,000 yards total, with 9 total touchdowns. So I'll be looking for him to be shining when the lights are bright here with an undefeated matchup here. And I think I really like my pick here with AHSTW there. I think that they could definitely pull this one off. So I think I like my pick. What about you?
Yeah, and I really like your Dyke New Hartford pick. They're only 2-2, but like you said, they have played an extremely tough schedule. Their 2 losses are both by 1 point. That's a team in Class 1A that if I got matched up in their, if I get matched up with them in the bracket, I'm worried sick. I'm staying up all night because that team is not going to have the shiniest of records. They're probably going to have a lower seed, but they play tough ball and they've hung with a lot of really good teams, almost beating Grundy Center in week 1, which would have been huge. But I like your picks there. Switching over to mine, I got a team in Regina Catholic who is really high in a lot of other polls, and ours, they're just starting to kind of climb up. They were like 15 or 16 last week. Now they're climbing to 13, 12. And this is a team that has just been on a tear. Regina Catholic, they've scored 40 points in every single game this year. They haven't had a close game yet. This week they get 0-4 Cascade. And Gentry Dumont and Jackson Naive are they might be the best quarterback receiver duo in Class 1A. We posted Gentry before, and his favorite target, the 2 seniors, are connecting a lot this year. So I really like Regina Catholic. I think they're only going to continue rising in our polls, and they're going to end up closer to the top 5 at the end of the year. My upset pick, I think the number 2 team in Class 1A goes down this week, and I really like this pick. Sumner Fredericksburg, 3-1. They're 1 loss to our Dyke New Hartford, a team we really like. And they beat East Buchanan. They beat North Fayette Valley. I think they go and beat MFO Marmac this week. MFO Marmac is a team that played really close with New Hampton. They just are coming off a nice win over Appington Parkersburg. But I don't know. There's not many stats to prove this one. This is more of a gut feeling. And I just feel like of all the craziness that's happened in Iowa high school football this year, I can see that one going down. But moving on to Class A, a class I know a lot about. Nick, what do you got? I'll tell you if I like it or not.
I've got my lock this week is Linville Sully over Wayne.
Yep, I like that one.
Yeah, they had their first loss, Linville Sully, to Madrid last week. That was a really good game for them. Our new number 1 team, if I'm
Yep, Madrid.
Yeah, the new number 1 team. And I think that I really like what we talked about earlier with teams kind of slipping one week and getting a loss, that they kind of went into that game just assuming they were going to win and then bouncing back the next week.
Yeah.
And I think that I can definitely see that happening this week. Lucas Seek, he's been really solid this year, 330 yards through the air and 4 touchdowns. And Landon Montgomery, he's got 308 yards and 6 touchdowns on the ground. So, they've got the players to do it. Wayne's going to give them they're going to give them a run for their money. They've only got a couple wins, one of them Colfax Mingo and Martinsdale St. Mary's, but I really like Linville Sully in this one. I think that they're, Madrid's a really great team. I think they're a little bit undervalued in some other polls. I like that we have them higher. And I can definitely see Linville Sully, like we talked about, bouncing back this week and getting a nice win.
I tell you what, Nick, Linville solely played that game on homecoming, and everyone thinks homecoming is like an automatic win, but if anything, it's more of a distraction. You got more to deal with. You got the parade, the dance. So sometimes it's hard to focus on those homecoming weeks. So another reason why Linville solely, that's a tough game to win in that. But go ahead with your upset.
I like this one's a little bit of a controversial one in my opinion. I've got East Buchanan taking out, I think, our number 2 team in that ranking, North Lynn. East Buchanan, they've got a solid win against a great Maquoketa Valley team, and I don't know, I just like North Lynn. They've been kind of in and out of our rankings every so often. Tristan Russell, 156 yards. He hasn't really had the greatest year, but looking at their Tanner Thurn, he's got 543 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground. So,
he's a stud.
Yeah, he's a really great player. That's what I'm going to be looking for, is him taking over the game, and East Buchanan a very rush-heavy team. So I'm going to be looking for him to just go off. And North Lynn, that's going to be one of their weaknesses. They've got 6 team interceptions on the year this year, so they really enjoy the passing teams. But East Buchanan, you're not going to get that with them. So. I like East Buchanan in this one, so now you're the expert of Class A. I'd like to hear what you've got picked for this week.
Yeah, I'm going to add to your East Buchanan pick. It looks like we got some rain. I don't know if you see on Bound, they got a little weather forecast now. If there's rain in that game, like you said, East Buchanan is going to want to run the ball. Northland wants to throw it a little more.
Right.
That might be an advantage for East Buchanan if it comes down to that. But again, East Buchanan, I really like that pick. But going to mine, I got Woodbury Central as my lock over St. Albert. Woodbury Central is really getting hot. A lot of these teams in the lower classes, we notice, like to run the ball more. But that is not the case with Woodbury Central. They are home to the best quarterback in Class A in Drew Klender. He's thrown for over 900 yards, and he's got a favorite target in Eric McGill. He was the returning receiving leader last year in this class, so I see them picking up a nice win. Hopefully the rain doesn't slow them down a little. But moving to my upset, we just moved Madrid up to the number 1 spot, and I could see them falling this week to Earlham. Earlham is a team brand new in our poll, 3-1. Probably undervalued before the year just because we didn't know what was returning with this team. Their 1 loss to ACGC, and as ACGC continues to rise, that loss is looking a lot better. Earlham is coming off a 30-plus point win over Southwest Valley, who was a top 5 team at one point. It's a team that's going to run the ball with Caleb Smith. Quarterback Blake Reynolds has proven to be a good game manager under center. So I wouldn't be surprised if Madrid wins, but I'm just saying if Earlham does win, it's something that I could see happening considering how close Madrid has played a lot of their games. They've been walking the tightrope so far, and we'll see if someone ends up getting them. But moving on to our final class, Class 8-man. Nick, who is your lock, and who is your potential upset?
My lock for this one is going to be Central City. They've been a really successful start to the season. Their only loss this year coming to Winfield, Matt Union, Cam Buffington obviously leading the helm for that team. He's really something special, and looking at their previous match here for Central City, they won 2 years ago, 84-34. So that was not really a very close game, and I'm going to be kind of looking for the same as well with those big inflated numbers for this one. Aiden Klosterman, he's going to be my guy that I'm looking at for Central City. 344 yards and 5 touchdowns on the ground, while also picking up 151 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns catching. So he has been a star for this team, and a team that I'm going to be looking at to be one of those playoff teams. And maybe we could even see them in the Dome this year if they're able to keep those numbers up for Klosterman, keep getting him his touches. I could see them coming out for that one. And my upset this week, I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I've got Mormon Trail over Bedford. Bedford has kind of come out of the woodwork. I didn't really expect them to be having such a great season, but they have. But Mormon Trail, they have got a win over just one. It was just Melcher Dallas. And they kind of got blew out of the water last week by Lennox. But you know what? I'm going to,
gut feeling.
It's gut feeling, like you said earlier. This is just a game that you never know what could happen in 8-man. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I love how big the numbers get in 8-man. I love all the touchdowns. I love all the yards. I think it's great. I'm going to be looking at Triton Gwynn for this one, 234 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground, while also picking up 373 yards and 4 touchdowns through the air. So, another team where you've got a dual threat guy. He can run the ball, and he can really do special things when he's catching the passes as a top target. So those are my locks and underdogs. That was my final game, so I will pass it on to you.
Nick, that is the first pick of the day where I did not agree with you. Bedford is my lock. They've got, I see, 3 guys rushing for over 250 yards. If anything, they are one-dimensional. They've only thrown the ball 21 times. So that is one thing you can kind of take against them. But I tell you what, Connor Nally, the quarterback, he's completed 12 passes on the year. 8 of them have gone for touchdowns. So he is proving to be very efficient through the air. And, yeah, I'm going to go against you here. I don't think there's any way Bedford loses. I think they are a potential dome team, really. So I'm going to go against you there and have some fun. But my upset, my roommate's going to hate this because he's from Arweva, but I think Woodbine goes and beats the newly ranked Arweva Rockets. They've had some common opponents, which they've played pretty tight. Woodbine has just lost those games close. Arweva has won those games close. And Woodbine's got a good quarterback in Broden Pryor, got similar stats to Blaine Smith, his opposition. Arweva has been kind of a surprise team. I know that because they're from kind of the Carroll area where I'm from. They've come out of nowhere. They've had a great year, 4-0. But I think Woodbine gets them this year, or gets them this time. Woodbine has won the last 2 matchups. I think they kind of have their number. But nevertheless, I kind of see that one going towards Woodbine. But Nick, that's all we got. Nick, we did a good job knocking through all 7 classes again. Nick is going to be at Hawkeyes Johnson, so if you see him, say hello. He didn't pick that game, so no one can hate him.
Nope. Staying completely neutral.
He's going to be shooting video for us, going to have a ton of fun. I will be at Harlan, Creston, going to be super excited for that. No live show this week, but we're looking at doing some sort of recap throughout the weekend. Yeah. So appreciate you guys for tuning in, and we will catch you next time.